NSB, Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Hatid sa inyo ni Kuya Dong. NSB, Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Hatid sa inyo ni Kuya Dong. Magandang umaga mga kasangga. Dito na naman po tayo, ang inyong Kuya Dong. At samahan niyo po ako sa ating Daily Dose of News, ang MSB, Kape at Balita sa Umaga. Naghahatid po ng mga nagbabagang balita at kaganapan sa loob at labas ng ating bansa sa loob lamang po ng 30 minutos. So bago po tayo magsimula sa ating pagbabalita, samahan niyo po muna ako sa isang maikling panalangin. Sa ngalang ng Ama, Anak, ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Mahal naming lumikha, maraming salamat sa bagong araw na ipinagkaloob niyo sa amin. Sa mapayapang gabing lumipas at sa patuloy na pagbuhos ng iyong mga biyaya sa amin at sa aming bayan. Naway ipagkaloob mo po sa amin ang lakas at tibay ng loob upang mapaglabanan ang kasamaan at manatili po kami sa paggawa ng mabuti sa kapwa at pagsunod sa iyong itinurong tamang landas. Lahat ng gawain namin, inaalay namin sa iyong anak na si Jesus na aming Panginoon. Amen. Sa ngalan ng Ama at ng Anak, Espiritu Santo. Amen. At para sa ating balita, ngayong araw na to, araw ng Biyernes, April 28. April 28 po, Biyernes. At maaga po tayong nag-stream dahil po brownout po dito sa aming lugar mula alas 6 hanggang alas 7. Alas 6 po ng umaga hanggang alas 7 mamayang gabi. Para sa ating top news. Mula sa Rappler, Philippines. Tycoons reassemble for 100 billion Naya rehab. What's new this time? From Rappler by Ralph Rivas. Manila, Philippines. Some of the Philippines tycoons have reassembled their super consortium in a bid to rehabilitate the Ninoy Aquino International Airport, infamous for being labeled as the world's worst gateway. The Avengers-like setup ensures that the airport fix would have the money, but talks still failed during the previous administration of Rodrigo Duterte due to regulatory deadlocks. The billionaire team is giving it another shot under President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Six conglomerates have reunited: Aboitiz Infracapital, AC Infrastructure, Asia's Emerging Dragon Corporation, Alliance Global Infracorp Development, Philinvest Development Corporation, and JG Summit Infrastructure Holdings Corporation. They have submitted an unsolicited proposal to the Philippine government valued at 100 billion. What's the difference this time around? A new foreign partner. The conglomerates have tapped Global Infrastructure Partners, GIP, for the proposed rehabilitation. GIP, founded in 2006, boasts of some 60 billion of assets under management. Its airport and aviation portfolio includes the airports of Sydney, Edinburgh, and London. The conglomerates previously tapped Singapore's Changi Airports International Private Limited for technical support in master planning, operations optimization, and commercial development. Payment terms. The consortium said the 100 billion proposal includes a significant upfront payment to government and committed investments in new facilities and technology. The name. The new consortium is called the Manila International Airport Consortium, or MIAC. The old one was referred to as the NAIA Consortium. We are ready to put our combined resources forward in partnering with the government on this massive undertaking. Our consortium brings unrivaled expertise, proven solutions, and extensive capital, said Kevin Tan, the Alliance Global Chief Executive Officer and MIAC Director. No MVP. Tycoon Manny Pangilinan is not participating in the new consortium. Pangilinan's Metro Pacific Investment Corporation was part of the original super consortium but pulled out in 2020, saying that it would be tough to continue to be part of it. How far the old consortium got? The old consortium's proposal went as far as getting the nod of the National Economic and Development Authority Board. The rehabilitation was set to start by 2021 and targeted to be completed by 2024. The 102 billion build, operate, transfer proposal got approval for a concession agreement of 15 years. The original proposal was 35 years for a 350 billion rehabilitation plan. The rehabilitations and expansion were supposed to be done in two phases. The goals were to improve and expand the terminals in the Karat-Naya land area, as well as develop an additional runway, taxiways, passenger terminals, and support infrastructure. The plan eventually fell through, with the Philippine government withdrawing the original proponent status granted to the consortium. The consortium then said it would not push through with revisions due to a pandemic's impact on the aviation industry. The plans under Consortium 2.0 have yet to be revealed. Josephine Gochanon Yap, Philinvest CEO and MIAC Director, said they are united in the belief that our gateway to the world needs to represent the best of who we are as Filipinos. Passing through our international gateway should be a seamless experience. We want the first thing that locals and foreigners alike see when they arrive in the Philippines, to be a source of pride for all Filipinos, she added. World's Mega Wide. Aside from MIAC, Megawide Construction Corporation, and its partner GMR Infrastructure of India earlier expressed interest in getting another chance to submit an unsolicited proposal to upgrade the country's main international gateway. Megawide Executive Director for Infrastructure Development, Louis Ferrer, told the Philippine Star that they are open to pursuing the 109 billion project anew, adding that they have never closed their doors. Megawide was awarded the original proponent status in 2020 after the NAYA consortium talks with the government failed, but it lost that status too in the same year. Next on the headline, Iloilo, Bacolod cities reimpose mask mandates as COVID-19 cases rises. From Rappler by Francis Alan Angelo. Iloilo, Philippines. Iloilo has reimposed mask mandates as other local governments across the region ramp up vaccination drives anew due to rising COVID-19 cases. Iloilo City Mayor Jerry Treñas on Tuesday, April 25, issued Executive Order number 048 series of 2023. It mandates the wearing of face masks for indoor public and private establishments, in all public transport, and in outdoor settings where physical distancing cannot be maintained. The EO makes mask wearing voluntary in open spaces and non-crowded outdoor areas with good ventilation. The city strongly encouraged individuals who are only partially vaccinated or unvaccinated against COVID-19, as well as immunocompromised persons and senior citizens, to keep on their masks and always observe 1 meter distancing, even in outdoor settings. Treñas EO follows reports of rising COVID-19 cases, particularly the detection of the Omicron XBB.1.16 subvariant, also called Arcturus strain. Less punitive. Treñas asked about fines or jail time for violators for the indoor mask mandates, said they would rather remind or reprimand violators. We are banking on the cooperation of the Ilonggos, he said. As of Monday, Iloilo City has logged 84 cases in April 2023. This is also already close to December 2022's total tally of 99 and almost double that of March 2023 of 44. The city's positivity rate rose to 7.08% in April 23 from just 1.70 on April 1. Positivity rate refers to the percentage of people who tested positive for COVID among the overall number of people who have been tested. Since January 2023, the city has logged 187 cases, including 2 deaths so far this year. Unvaccinated at high risk. In Bacolod City, an unvaccinated senior citizen died of COVID-19 on Monday, April 24, according to the City Health Office. The death of the 77-year-old female brings the number of COVID-19 deaths in the city to 9, said Bacolod Emergency Operations Center head Dr. Ana Maria Larni Pornan. All fatalities were unvaccinated residents, Pornans added. 6 new COVID-19 cases were reported on Wednesday, April 26, bringing to 54 the city's active cases. Meanwhile, the Negros Occidental Provincial Incident Management Team said the Cadiz District Hospital on Wednesday admitted 11 new COVID-19 cases. Bacolod Mayor Albi Benitez reminded residents that they need to wear face masks in enclosed, air-conditioned vehicles like buses and the new modern jeepney. He said the city government also advises people in crowded spaces, even outdoors, to wear masks. Bacolod is at level 1, the most lenient of the categories, which imposes no restrictions. Negros Occidental, which is on level 2, continues to struggle with resistance towards COVID-19 vaccines. Health and local government officials have said the problem is most pronounced among senior citizens and members of conservative rural churches. Iloilo Province. The Iloilo Provincial Health Office also reported a spike in COVID-19 cases in the past 2 weeks. IPHO Chief Dr. Maria Socorro Colmenares Quignon said the province logged 52 new cases. With one death in a span of 2 weeks from April 9 to 22, 2023. The cases continue to increase with our daily average at approximately 4 cases in a day, Quignon added. Data from IPHO indicated that 24 Iloilo towns have active COVID-19 cases. The province's average daily case in April is 3.71% from only 2.42 in March. On April 24, 2023, Iloilo Province recorded 4 new cases, 2 in Oton and 1 each in Pavia and Santa Barbara. On April 26, the Department of Health Central Office announced the detection of the first case of the Arturo's case in Iloilo Province, declaring the patient asymptomatic and already recovered. Arturo's is a sublineage of the XBB subvariant and added by the World Health Organization and the European Center for Disease Prevention and Control. It was initially flagged as a new variant of interest due to its increasing global prevalence and for having mutations which may lead to an increase in the ineffectivity or pathogenicity. DOH Western Visayas said it is still verifying the status of the first XBB.1.16 case through the Iloilo Provincial Health Office, IPHO. A 16-year-old female admitted to the Western Visayas Medical Center in Iloilo. Vaccination. Dr. Roland J. Fortuna said the Iloilo City Health Office will be campaigning anew for COVID-19 vaccination and booster shots. ICHO's data on vaccination indicated an almost 40% booster shot coverage. Western Visayas regional accomplishment rate for booster shots is 12% if factoring in other provinces and Bacolod City. We are going after the fully vaccinated senior citizens because we want to reach at least 80%. We are now at 79%, Fortuna remarked. ICHO vaccination data on seniors is or those 60 years old and above show a primary series rate of 78.59% and 38.94 boosters. The ICHO has secured approval for the extension of the shelf life of previous Pfizer vaccine stocks, apart from the recent arrival of the new stock. The national government on Sunday, April 23, announced the city will remain under alert level 1 for COVID, despite the rise of COVID-19 cases. Fortuna said COVID vaccination coverage, particularly for senior citizens, was a significant consideration for their alert level status of an area. On to our next headline news. On space exploration, NASA chief sees Russians and Americans together on space station through 2030. News supplied by Reuters from Rappler. Ottawa, Canada. The NASA Administrator Bill Nelson on Tuesday condemned Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, but said in Ottawa that he expected Russians and Americans to work together on the International Space Station until it is decommissioned. American and Russian space cooperation was put in doubt after the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Yuri Borisov, the Director General of Russia's space agency Roscosmos, surprised NASA by announcing in July 2022 that Moscow intended to withdraw from the space station partnership after 2024. A day later, NASA said Roscosmos wanted to continue the partnership. Nelson, who was in Ottawa to help showcase the Artemis II space mission, including a Canadian astronaut, underscored the history of U.S. and Soviet collaboration in space during the Cold War and said he expects it to continue amid the war in Ukraine. We are completely at odds with President Putin's aggression that is slaughtering people and invading an autonomous sovereign country, Nelson told Reuters in an interview in Ottawa. But the collaboration aboard the ISS continues in a very professional manner between astronauts and cosmonauts without a hitch. And I expect that to continue all the way through the end of the decade when they will then orbit the space station. NASA has estimated it will begin the orbiting the ISS in January 2031. Launched in 1998, the ISS has been continuously occupied since November 2000 under a U.S.-Russian-led partnership that also includes Canada, Japan, and 11 European countries. The space station was born in part from a foreign policy initiative to improve the American-Russian relations following the collapse of the Soviet Union and the Cold War hostility that spurred the original U.S.-Soviet space race. The ISS arrangement, which has endured numerous strains over the years, has stood as one of the last links of civil cooperation as Russia's invasion of Ukraine sent relations between Washington and Moscow to a new post-Cold War low. Continuing our global news. Sudan fighting flares but military approved ceasefire extension by Reuters, also from Rappler. Khartoum, Sudan. Sudan's army and a paramilitary force battled on Khartoum's outskirts on Wednesday, undermining a truce in their 11-day conflict. But the army expressed willingness to extend the ceasefire. The army, late on Wednesday, April 26, said its leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, gave initial approval to a plan to extend the truce for another 72 hours and send an army envoy to the South Sudan capital, Juba, for talks. The Sudanese Armed Forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces previously agreed to a 3-day ceasefire that was due to expire late on Thursday, April 27. There was no immediate response from the RSF to the proposal from the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, a regional bloc. The military said the presidents of South Sudan, Kenya, Djibouti worked on a proposal that includes extending the truce and talks between the two forces. Burhan thanked the IGAD and expressed an initial approval to that, the Army statement said. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and African Union Commission Chairperson Musa Faki Mahamat discussed working together to create a sustainable end to the fighting, the State Department said in a statement on Wednesday. Some of the Wednesday's heaviest battles were in Omdurman, a city adjoining Khartoum, where the army was fighting RSF reinforcements from other regions of Sudan. A Reuters reporter said heavy gunfire and airstrikes could be heard into the evening. In Khartoum, which together with two bordering cities is one of Africa's largest urban areas, gangs marauded and there was widespread looting. Since fighting erupted on April 15, airstrikes and artillery have killed at least 512 people, wounded nearly 4,200, destroyed hospitals, and limited food distribution to the vast nation, where a third of the 46 million people were already reliant on humanitarian aid. Malnourished children. The World Health Organization said only 16% of health facilities were functioning in Khartoum and predicted many more deaths due to disease and shortages of food, water, and medical services, including immunization. An estimated 50,000 acutely malnourished children have had treatment disrupted due to the conflict, and those hospitals still functioning are facing shortages of medical supplies, power, and water, according to UN's update on Wednesday. Deadly clashes broke out in Jenaina in West Darfur on Tuesday and Wednesday, resulting in looting and civilian deaths and raising concerns about an escalation of ethnic tensions, the update said. The crisis has sent growing numbers of refugees across Sudan's borders, with UN Refugee Agency estimating 270,000 people could flee into South Sudan and Chad alone. Foreigners evacuated from Khartoum have described bodies littering streets, buildings on fire, residential areas turned into battlefields, and youths roaming with large knives. The White House said a second American had died in Sudan. It was horrible, said Thanasis Pagulatos, the 80-year-old Greek owner of the Acropole Hotel in Khartoum, after arriving in Athens to the embrace of emotional relatives. It has been more than 10 years without any electricity, without water, and 5 days nearly without food, he added. Describing shooting and bombing, really the people are suffering, the Sudanese people. Former dictator leaves prison. Beyond the humanitarian crisis, civilian groups fear the violence will enable the military to tighten its grip and revive the sway of an ousted autocrat's loyalists. The army said Omar al-Bashir, the 79-year-old former dictator toppled in 2019, had been transferred from Khartoum's Kober prison to a military hospital, along with at least five of his former officials before hostilities started. Over the weekend, thousands of inmates were freed outright from prison, including a former minister of Bashir's government who, like him, is wanted on war crimes charges by the International Criminal Court in The Hague. Bashir's three-decade reign came to an end with a popular uprising 4 years ago. He has been in prison with spells in hospitals on Sudanese charges related to the 1989 coup that brought him to power. This war, which is ignited by the ousted regime, will lead the country to collapse, said Sudan's Forces of Freedom and Change, a political grouping leading an internationally backed plan to transfer to civilian rule. The plan was derailed by the eruption of fighting between the regular army and the paramilitary rapid support forces. The two sides and the FCC missed on April deadline to launch the transition to democracy, largely over disputes about merging the security forces. Civilian groups have blamed groups loyal to Bashir of seeking to use conflict to find a way back to power. The RSF, whose leader General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo rose to power under Bashir but later dumped him, has strongly opposed the Islamists who backed the former army autocrat. Sudan's army took over in a coup 2 years after the toppling of Bashir. Whereabouts of Bashir came into question after a former minister in his government, Al Harun, announced he had left Kober prison with former officials. The ICC in The Hague has accused Bashir of genocide and Harun of organizing militias to attack civilians in Darfur in 2004. It declined to comment on the situation. Again, for our overseas news, also from Sudan, over 400 Filipinos evacuated from Sudan by Michelle Abad of Rappler. Philippine authorities have evacuated 409 Filipinos from conflict-hit Sudan and amid its mass evacuation efforts in the Northeast African country, Malacanang confirmed on Thursday, April 27. Of the 409 Filipinos, 335 overseas Filipino workers, along with their family members, left the Sudanese capital Khartoum on Wednesday, April 26, for Egypt. Meanwhile, another 35 OFWs and 50 students were safely brought to Egypt with the help of Filipino community in Sudan, as well as personnel from the Department of Migrant Workers. The Filipinos who have managed to escape are now in safe zones at the Egyptian border, officials said. In an interview with GMA's Unang Balita on Thursday morning, DFA Undersecretary for Migrant Workers Affairs, Eduardo de Vega, said that there are problems at the borders because Egypt is strict with allowing entry due to the ongoing clashes. He added that many of the evacuating Filipinos either have expired passports or do not have passports with them at all. Some reasons for not having passports include how they may have been left with their employers or they are simply undocumented workers. Ang aming strategy, bibigyan namin sila ng bus, dadalhin sa border, malayo yun almost 15 to 20 hours kasi 1,000 kilometers. Pagdating doon, sasalubungin sila para makatawid. Akala namin normally 2, 3, 4 hours, pero ngayon tumatagal ng isang araw o lagpas pa, said De Vega. Philippine Ambassador to Egypt, Ezzedine Tago, in the same Unang Balita interview, said that Egyptian officials graciously allowed Filipinos to get visas on arrival at the border. Tago and Vice Consul Boher Kapati figured in a car accident while on the way to the Sudan-Egypt border, but both are reported safe. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. earlier directed the various Philippine agencies assisting in the evacuation to help all, regardless of documentation status. On Wednesday, the DFA raised Alert Level 3 on the voluntary repatriation and evacuation phase in Sudan due to the ongoing political situation in the country. Philippine authorities are currently on the ground in Egypt to evacuate the hundreds of Filipinos needing assistance. The public is assured that the Philippine Embassy in Cairo is continuously monitoring the situation while providing repatriation assistance to Filipinos in Sudan, the DFA said. The Department of National Defense is also involved in the evacuation and repatriation. Malacanang said DND officer in charge, Carlito Galvez, is coordinating with the DFA to reposition the Philippine Defense Attaché from the United Arab Emirates and Israel to help the Philippine Embassy in Cairo. The Philippines is among several countries working to evacuate its citizens and other affected people from the Sudan clashes. On Wednesday morning, the French Embassy in Manila said that it evacuated more than 500 people, including Filipinos, among other nationalities. On April 15, fighting broke out between the Sudan Armed Forces and the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. Both agreed to a 72-hour ceasefire beginning Tuesday, April 25. But there was no sign in the warring parties are ready to seriously negotiate. The United Nations Special Envoy in Sudan said, with reports from Bea Kopin and Reuters, Rappler.com. And for our final news, for a regional update, 382 Butuan farmers get 4.2 million indemnity from PCIC by Alexander Lopez of Philippine News Agency. Butuan City. Around 382 local rice and corn farmers who were affected by recent calamities received indemnification payments from the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation, the city's Public Information Office reported Thursday. In a statement, the PIO said over 4.2 million worth of indemnity payments were received by the affected farmers on Wednesday. The farm products of these rice and corn farmers were affected by the floods that hit the city in December last year and in January 2023, it said. It added that the amount received by the affected farmers depended on the damage they incurred as assessed by the City Agriculture Office and the Department of Agriculture. The city government of Butuan, under the administration of Mayor Ronnie Vicente Lanyada, continues to work with other concerned agencies to ensure the protection of our farmers, the PIO said. The city government, through the CAO, has urged farmers to avail of the PCIC insurance program for protection against agricultural losses due to floods and other natural calamities, it added. Meanwhile, some 42 rice farmers from the different barangays have undergone a field day cum preferential analysis under the NextGen Plus Project Rice varietal trial program for the first semester of 2023. The activity, which took place Wednesday, was conducted at the Butuan City Rice Research Center in Barangay Los Angeles. The NextGen Plus project is an initiative being implemented under the rice sector strategy of the Department of Agriculture and the Philippine Rice Research Institute, the PIO said. Under the initiative, the rice farmers are given information on plant breeding with the use of molecular biology, stratified multi-location testing, and computational power. The program also helps the farmers identify the best performing rice varieties which can thrive from pests and diseases. And that concludes our headlines updates for today, April 28th, Friday. And we'd like to, before we close our broadcast, shout out to those who joined us. So, we have Ate Tet Diray who joined us. We have Miles also. Good morning, Dad. She said, good morning din, Miles. Thanks for joining the live. And Sister Mavi Jimenez also watching. Good morning. Good morning. Unfortunately, I'm unable to see those who are currently watching who might not have sent a message. No, na medyo nagluloko po yung aking monitor. I have two monitors here but both are not getting anything. So anyway, I'll be seeing you again tomorrow for the regular programming of Magkasangga sa Buhay. And this is your Kuya Dong signing off for today. Good morning, everybody, and happy Friday. God bless.